So this is Odoo for nonprofits. And as I said, because I am involved in nonprofits myself, and I use the software tool that we're paying for, it triggered a lot of thoughts and what we can do in addition to what's already going on in Odoo. And I have an agenda that basically quickly goes into what are nonprofit organizations, what are the tools they're using to manage their business, and then what is going on in Odoo, what are the gaps, and what is the vision. So it's pretty clear where we want to go here. We want to add more to Odoo in nonprofit. What are nonprofit organizations? They're also worldwide, internationally known as NGOs, non-government organizations. And that is actually maybe not a great name for it, because non-government organizations could be other organizations too, but this specifically part of the UN resolution was to build non-government organizations that are also not-for-profit or that are non-profit organizations, so non-businesses. But of course, a non-profit organization is also a business, but it's not a business that wants to make profit. And that is the key thing. It's formed for the benefit of the public good. It's just run like a business, even though some people say it's not a business, but I like to look at it as a business because it has all the aspects of managing income and expenses and filing taxes and all these things. The profits are used to further their objectives. And in the US, they're granted tax-exempt status, which is probably true in most countries. I'm not so familiar with most countries, so I'm focusing on the US, and I apologize for that. But a lot of the things are actually representative to other countries as well. If NGOs were a country, they would have the 5th largest economy in the world. That's pretty amazing to think about. If you look at that statement, that means that this part of our life is really, really important. And it's not just the revenue and the expenses, it's also all the volunteers that are chiming in, thousands and thousands or millions of volunteers all across the world that have a mission, that feel compelled to give. And this is what it's all about. It's making the world a better place by helping others and not just think about our own benefit. Makes me actually get goosebumps just thinking about it. So I'm getting my chills here. There's a little survey that, it's not so little, but it's a survey that happened, sponsored by some organizations in the nonprofit world. And they've sent out a survey in 160 countries and got some 5,700 something response from NGOs. And it shows us where actually the top countries are. You see that United States is pretty big. Mexico is significant. But look at India, 20%. I mean, isn't that wonderful? How many people in India are actually supporting each other in the community? I thought it was really an amazing little bit of knowledge here. And, even though these countries are marked as the 5 largest, I know that every country in the world has these organizations, and it's important in any one of those countries. And then if you look at the sizes of the organizations, sometimes we think of NGOs as little organizations that don't really manage much in terms of expenses and money. It's actually not so true, because about half of all the NGOs are actually good size organizations that have reasonable expenses, and they need to manage a lot of stuff. It's not just a couple volunteers. So let's take a look at another set of statistics, also from NP Tech for Good. And they basically, in the same survey, found out that 64% of all these surveyed NGOs accept online donations. So they're actually pretty tech savvy, and 40% of them use CRM for donor management and outreach, and 68% use recurring donation payments. So, just want to get this on a monthly or annual basis from you. And also 24%, a quarter, are really unhappy with their CRM. And they say it's difficult to use, it's outdated, it's incompatible with other systems, it's expensive, there's no cloud access. So people are not really happy. And maybe we can say, well, that's only 25%, but 25% of a number that is really high, which is actually in the US, it's 1.5 million organizations. That's hundreds of thousands of organizations that are not happy. And I think we can do a lot better here with our support using the stuff we know really well. And when I look at these numbers here, 2.6 trillion in revenue just in the United States. That is a big chunk of organizations that have to manage a lot of things. And 500 million nonprofits have expenses over $500,000. So they're actually good-sized organizations, or they're starting to have to worry about really managing a business. And 500 million nonprofits that need to manage their business need tools to do that. So what are the tools? There are fundraising tools like QGIF and Bloomerang and Salesforce, donor management tools, and some of them are overlapping, Salesforce and others. That's kind of the CRM thing. Then there's email communication and other things to reach out, and analytics, task management. They use Asana and Podio and other tools, volunteer management, and then accounting. So I'm going to focus on some of these, but you will see me focus a lot on accounting, because I believe that's where in our world, the Odoo and OCA world, we have the largest gaps. So nonprofit accounting has net assets versus equity. So here are some differences, just to give you an idea why am I even talking about accounting? Because we have great accounting tools in Odoo, and the OCA presents even more additional add-ons to it. But in nonprofit in the United States, and this is a bit different by country, nonprofits in accounting use net assets versus equity. They have donor restrictions, so they are very designated specific purpose donations that need to be tracked throughout the system. And the revenue and expenses are tracked within programs, and so that are usually services. And often we have this term fund management. They're actually specific funds, and the funds are programs that are tracked specifically and have balanced in an output of account from an accounting point of view. So management and administration overhead cost needs to be very visible. So it's a little bit different than what we usually do. Here we want to show exactly how much we're spending on overhead, because any potential donor or organization that wants to inject funds wants to know the effectiveness, and they want to see that management overhead small. So we want to track fundraising cost to get grants and run events, and we want the statement of activities to replace the income statement. So that's from an output reporting point of view, the next 3 bullets: statement of activities, statement of financial position, and statement of functional expenses, which lay out the actual details and where do you spend within these programs. That is very critical for, those are requirements to report year end in these organizations. And there is, again, no stakeholder equity, which is a different, it's a difference from regular accounting. In fund accounting, the purpose is to really show accountability versus profitability. And I mentioned the tracking of resources. So this is done by source designation allocation. Where does the money come from? Where should I use it? And what specific area should I use it for? And how was it spent in reality, other than my goals? Is it compliant with what I have to do? And the fund has a self-balancing accounts. So we know exactly what goes in and out, and funds are listed on the statements of financial positions as net assets with or without donor restrictions. So if I donate something, I can put a very strong restriction on it and say, only spend my money for something specific. And I want to give you a very quick example what that actually looks like. If I use a software that I use in my organization, which is Applause. And I'm not really advocating this software tool at all. It's just a software tool that I have access to, and it has some interesting aspects to look at. So when I go and look at this, this is actually an online cloud service, Applause. The software costs us a lot. We're spending as an organization over $600 a year for the software. For small organizations like us, because we don't have a lot of income, that's a lot of money. And you see on the dashboard, I can see, what's our current funding level, and we're small, as you can see, but I have all the dashboard stuff. This is something that I guess Odoo can easily present as well. What we have in addition to that, and I'm going to people here, I have contacts as households and contact. This is the CRM part that we also cover very well in Odoo. Groups and teams, this is just personal stuff. Donations, this is where it becomes actually different. So in group management, in donations, I have a fundraising center that tells me who donate, what are my prospects. And this is a little bit like CRM, but it goes a bit further because remember, we have these designated donations and other things. I have these purposes that I can actually define. And this is where it goes into the actual programs. I have designated funds here, and they are linked to certain accounts, and I need to manage that here. And then I have, on top of that, online donation tools that I can use to set up my online donation. So we had a donation for a particular purpose, and then we set up these online forms so people can, through the website, easily donate. And these websites can be embedded elsewhere. So in short, this is the donation part. There's a marketing part, and then there's the fund accounting, which is probably the biggest differentiator here. And with that, if I click on fund accounting, I can look at accounts over here, get an account list. And this is where the funds come in. You see, I defined a few funds. I have my typical assets, and here under equity and fund balances is where the difference is, because I have these unrestricted and restricted net assets, and I need to monitor this closely because all my income and all my expenses need to be allocated to these particular funds. And there's a lot more in this tool that I don't need to go through, but from a reporting point of view, it's actually interesting because I just said that we in nonprofit accounting, we don't have income statement balance sheets. They actually have different names, but funny enough, we still call them income statements and balance sheets here. So I think there is probably, it's just semantics that from a reporting point of view, we still like the old names. So income statement, as you can see, goes into, now it looks very similar, but I have for my balance sheets also the ability to look at the different funds as well. So I can expand that and look at funds. So you can see the different funds here, reserve fund, and so on. That's all I want to show you about this tool, just to give you an idea what is really different when we're looking at the Odoo world. So I'm going to continue with my presentation here and go into what are we doing right now in Odoo for nonprofits. So we have the CRM for fundraising, donor management, and volunteer management. We have the PM tools to do task management, manage events, and then we have tools for invoicing, sales and surveys, and email marketing. So there's a lot already in there, and email marketing may be part of CRM, but how we slice and dice it, Odoo has a lot to offer already. And then there are some clear gaps, and I interviewed a few people that are actually using Odoo in the nonprofit world. There are some people that are using it, and Rebecca was actually one of them. Thank you, Rebecca, for your feedback. And part of the common feedback is that it's actually quite difficult right now to edit websites properly, to make them look good for just presenting your services. Odoo, I know with the new 14 version, has done significant investment in that area, but it's still a little cumbersome right now in the older versions and the community version to do good website editing. The user website experience for memberships and donors needs to be there. It's not there really because you can't they cannot go easily online and do all their recurring payments and look at the membership statuses. And if somebody moves from one organization to another, it's hard to manage on the back end. So that user experience and also management side is a gap. The other one is the whole accounting part that I mentioned earlier, and you saw the differences. That's non-existent to my knowledge, unless I missed something, and then I would be very happy to get feedback and see where this goes. But the fund management and statements that need to come out of accounting it's actually a sub-bullet of accounting, so I should have, it's part of the accounting for nonprofits, but fund management and statements are the critical two of the accounting for nonprofits. So that brings me to the community and OCA. It's always amazing what people put together. And I know there's a vertical here for NGO, and there are some of the key contributors on OCA are also involved here. So it shows you that the people that are already focused on giving are even going further and putting tools together. And the current status that I reviewed is that we focus a lot on logistics and procurement, some sales. It's more, yeah, okay, so here are things that we need to purchase and then we need to donate them somewhere else. We need to bring in, and it's more the large logistics part of the maybe international NGOs, which is really important, but it doesn't focus as much on the accounting side, the user management, the donor management, the online donations and online web management. So that is a big gap. And I can see us as a community to make a difference here. And that's where I believe from a proposal point of view is to really add those into the OCA and get some people rallied together to build out these accounting tools. I'm not as technical anymore. I stopped developing a while back, but I have the ability to come up with nice user scenarios and functional requirements and design. So I can definitely, I want to participate in this, but I also need developers that help me to put this together. And my vision is that in the end, what we're doing, instead of organizations like my nonprofit organization to spend now $1,000 a year possibly on these accounting softwares, why don't we have free community-based nonprofit software that we can make available, and people can actually go into a cloud-hosted environment because they don't have the IT people to set up anything on the Linux or Ubuntu side, and none of this is anything of their business. They don't want to deal with IT. They want just to go online and get a solution like I did in this Atlas tool. So somehow we need to figure out who can manage this. There's going to be some small fees for them to pay, because it's reasonable for them to pay a fee for online hosting, right? So I mean, we're hosting a cloud solution. So money comes in, that's used to set up this environment, and the nonprofits get support through training and technical support with these fees. So it's almost like another nonprofit, possibly, or some profit organization, whoever wants to take that on, to host this environment, make some money, but overall reduce the cost for all these nonprofits. And what they get out of it is a tool that goes way beyond QuickBooks and all these other things and Atlas, because those are all nice, but very limited. They're not a full ERP. They're not what we know Odoo can do. And that's the vision. And I wanted to present this to everyone because I believe that as an OCA community, we're already in the spirit of giving and collaborating. So I see this as a great opportunity to make a huge difference and bring a very large community of new Odoo users. And that is the conclusion. And if anybody has a question about this, if you're not all asleep in Europe and maybe at lunch in the States, please shoot away.
They're wide awake. And Wolfgang, I don't know if you had a chance to see in the chat, but Carl Mason said that he's working with a small team to use Odoo for disaster relief. And they're trying to link GIS data, QGIS, with logistics data in Odoo. And then Kobo Forms is a big one, and he gives the link to the Kobo toolbox. And OCHA hum data, hashtag HTML, is important for reports to donors when raising money. Also Plus and Play with other relief agencies. There's a chat there from Carl, and then also farther down you can see where on your question about,
is that in the Zoom chat or the
yeah, you look in the Zoom chat. Yeah, it's not in Discord, just kind of on the side. If you click on the bottom there, you'll see the chat window.
Yeah.
And there is, and also Ben Britch said that Wolfgang, he said, check github.com/OCA/donation. So wanted to see if you could check those out. And then we also have a question after you answer those two. We got one from Virginie also about the cloud hosted solution. So yeah, check out those two on the chat there and see if you had any comments about from Ben Britch and also from Carl Mason. Do you see those?
Yeah, I can see this. That's excellent. Wow, I'm actually very thankful for you guys chiming in. So I will check out all these things, and particularly the one that you mentioned with the QGIS and logistics. I mean, I don't know, it's a little sidebar, but I worked for a mapping company, and I actually was their guy for logistics vision for the company. And that's what I did, working with logistics and GIS. And I actually have experience in QGIS. So I would love to hook up and come up with some ideas there. But also the donation part, that's beautiful that we have that. So I think there's all these bits and pieces. Maybe all it takes is somebody to bring it all together. And that's kind of what I'm willing to step up to do, and breathe more energy in this NGO part, and wherever on OCA it needs to live. Max and Daniel and others can help me there, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to that collaboration. I gotta capture this whole chat here somewhere and copy it down.
Ben also, like you, Wolfgang. I'm sorry, go ahead, Rebecca.
I was just going to jump in and just say that Ben has a wealth of knowledge in this as well. So if you can collab with him, you will do well, Wolfgang.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, he's from Virginia there. And one question from Virginie, she has in the Q&A, she says, about your vision with the cloud-hosted solution that would focus on NGO, who have the same functional needs of no customization?
Okay, so the interesting thing is that if you look at the numbers, there are hundreds of thousands of organizations that are already in the need to use accounting software just in the United States. And that Aplos tool that I showed you is a non-customized generic tool. That's what I envision to start with. Now, larger organizations like the Red Cross or whatever, they are in a different league, and they would need heavy customization. And my goal here is not to come up with something that needs to be customized. I think my goal is to start with something that is actually generic. And I'm not thinking of it as an open source integrator right now. I'm having a different hat on. My hat is get people something that's out of the box. So if I understand your question correctly, it's, is there enough commonality to propose a non-customized version? And yes, because that's what we already have, but we're paying a lot of money for it.
Right, I'm a board chair of a small nonprofit that helps developmentally disabled artists to be able to express art. And Virginia also said a second comment there, Wolfgang. She said, in our small worker cooperative, we're working for the social economy sector. That means NGO, but also cooperatives. There might be profit, but the profit is always focusing on building a stronger cooperative. The difficulty is our business model is to get paid for our services. Do you have any idea or inspiration for us? And I wondered if your work in NAMI in Redlands, if you're doing any kind of merchandising or things for being able to monetization.
Yeah, I mean, the common misperception is that nonprofits don't get paid for services. That's actually not true, because we as nonprofits, we can get paid for services. We should get paid for services in certain circumstances. We team up with other organizations, as long as the purpose is to actually support the mission of the organization. That's the only criteria. And you're not making a profit for anybody in the organization. Any money that you make, you feed back into your programs. And yes, you can make money. You can be very profitable as a nonprofit organization. Sounds paradox, but you use the profits to increase your programs. And then that's all that matters. At least that's the tax law in the United States. And as I said, I'm not as familiar in other countries, but that's how it typically works. I don't know if that helps. Was that?
Oh, I agree with you, Wolfgang. Yeah, you look at American Red Cross; they're a nonprofit that makes money by in the U.S. anyway, and I think globally by having blood donations. And then Communication Workers of America. There's a lot of. I worked with Iron Workers International, which is a union, and is a nonprofit, but also had substantial union dues and things. So there is a money-making part of it if you can monetize that. I think we're running up on the end of our time together, and so want to turn the time back over to Rebecca. She's our great administrative director for the Odoo Community Association, to give us any kind of final wrap-up or comments on this exciting 2 days. And again, our gratitude to you, Rebecca and Graham and everybody, the OCA board, for organizing awesome presentations and collaboration.
Oh, I hadn't actually thought that I would be doing this, but Max might want to jump in. It's been amazing from what I've seen, the caliber of talks, the quality of the presentations, just incredible. I really feel that the community has come together and everybody's pitched in where we've needed them to, here and there. We always like more support though. So if you've been involved in the OCA days or see things that you like, of course, we do have our OCA membership. We have our GitHub sponsors. If you'd like to give back, as we are a nonprofit as well. But honestly, like just the amount of feedback that we've had for the speakers and the time and effort that they've given has been wonderful. So I can't thank everybody enough for making this a huge success in my books. And I know the board's speaking pretty positively too. So I hope that everybody has enjoyed. And we look forward to seeing you next year, whether it's in person or online again. But all I can say is thank you to the community. Without you, this is nothing, and you've been awesome.
Great, Rebecca. Thank you for that. I'll jump off now and just wish everyone a good night in Europe and a good morning, good Saturday morning at 7:45 a.m. in New Zealand. And again, thanks to everybody.